That is when the red Citroen 2CV came slowly down the main street and pulled up. Inside, we could see a young couple, a young man and a girl. Both a bit younger than me or Peter, is what I was thinking as the little car came to a halt right in front of where we were sitting. The 2CV pulled in beside my car outside Jorgo's, and we stopped talking as we watched the strangers. Few people from outside the peninsula ever came to Colony in those days, so the boy and the girl in the Citroen were a novelty. After a minute, they were climbing out of the car and stretching, as if they'd been motoring for hours. They were both handsome. You could see that the moment they climbed out of the car. Young and beautiful. Both could have been models. There was something so immaculate and polished about them. Even in their crumpled clothes, they looked stylish somehow. It was the boy who approached us, asking if anyone could speak Italian or maybe English. Now Mimi was calling in to Jorgo for 2 more Sprite lemonades, and Cosmo, the guy from the 2CV, was explaining in broken English that he and his girlfriend Sasha had run away from their homes in northern Italy together. They had not stopped driving the entire way down through Yugoslavia. Having reached this remote peninsula, they'd at last felt relaxed enough to pull over. He said that, looking down from the mountain pass at Arnofinari, they had finally felt convinced the distance they had traveled was far enough from home. Their main concern was that their families might find them, but they could see this was a wild, out-of-the-way place, and finally, they felt they could relax. Now they were here. They were wondering if they could find some apartment or cottage to rent, and maybe get some work. Our very own Romeo and Juliet. That is what we were all smiling about. Even the village boys had heard of Shakespeare's story. I was enjoying the moment, and I was also looking closely at the couple. There was something extraordinary about them. Yes, they were good looking, but it was something more. An innocence, perhaps, an aliveness, the rawness and optimism of youth. It was Cosmo who did all the talking by using 1 word of English for every 5 in Italian. Somehow we got his drift, and we told him both things were possible. There were some places that might be rented, and there was plenty of work around. Then Peter said they could come to Naranza and stay at the house with us until they found some place of their own. There are plenty of old houses in the village which could be had for next to nothing rent, he told them, but it would take a week or 2 for something to be arranged. Mimi agreed to talk to his uncle, who was a kind of left-wing Lord Mayor for the peninsula, a left-wing mayor who had his hand in most of the businesses. I watched Mimi as he spoke. We were sitting with our lemonades on what passed for a terrace outside Jorgo's, grabbing what shade we could in the heat. Mimi was chief of the village Kamaki fishermen. He spearfished for women. The hunt for women and sex was what Mimi did all the time, without break, regardless of his target's marital status or anything else. And he was always successful, partly through his easy, boyish charm and partly through his film star good looks. I never knew a man like him, before or since. I must have watched him talk and smile his way into the arms of dozens of women, to the extent that I had lost interest in the magic he weaved. He always hunted non-Greek females, and almost always they needed to possess what you could describe a generosity of figure. He liked big women, so I was interested to see how Mimi would react to this goddess who'd stepped out of the 2CV. She might be slim, thin even, but she was stunning. However, I could see he wasn't in the least attracted. I was, there and then. Sasha was slim and indescribably graceful, gazelle-like. To me, she was eye-achingly glamorous. She had long light brown hair that was untidy and sun-bleached at the edges. Untidy, yet somehow fabulous. Her tanned skin seemed to shine or have some kind of inner glow. I had to stop looking at her because then way I was doing it was embarrassing. I thought perhaps I'd never seen anyone quite as beautiful. But then, so was Cosmo. There was no doubt about that. Like Mimi, he had an easy manner about him. He had almost the same hair as Sasha, only his was shorter. Both had a sort of hippie-ish look. I could smell the patchouli oil as they had walked up to our table. And Cosmo had charm.